Blue-red lights sliced through the evening smoke like 4th of July sparklers that forgot the sky, casting an eerie glow on the usually tranquil cul-de-sac. HOA Karen, her clipboard clutched like Excalibur, a weapon in her self-appointed war on fun, grinned with a triumphant, almost predatory satisfaction, like she'd just won the lottery in bingo. She hissed, "Enjoy your last rib, troublemaker," her voice dripping with saccharine malice. Just as her smug words hung in the air, the cruiser door swung open, and the first voice I heard wasn't a stern police warning, but a booming, familiar chuckle. "Smells like 2012 tailgate. Save me a plate." My jaw nearly hit the perfectly manicured lawn. Stick around to see why her jaw hit the grass harder than a dropped hot dog bun. Quick CTA. If you live for neighborly nonsense, sizzling karma, and a good laugh, tap subscribe and smash that bell so you never miss a plate of justice served piping hot. Section 1. The calm before the charcoal. Picture a June Saturday that felt less like a day and more like a golden, sun-drenched dream, dipped in honey. The sun lounged lazily on every rooftop, painting the shingles in warm hues. Cicadas hummed a low, rhythmic backup vocal, a perfect soundtrack to the languid afternoon. My backyard oak, ancient and wise, wore dappled shade like a brand new, bespoke outfit, offering cool pockets of refuge from the summer heat. I'd fired up the grill at 3 sharp, the familiar click of the igniter a promise of good things to come. Cherrywood chips, carefully selected for their sweet, smoky aroma, kissed the coals until they glowed a deep dragon orange, radiating an almost primal heat. These weren't just any ribs. They were marinated for a full 48 hours in a top-secret mix, a blend so potent and delicious it could make a devout vegetarian question all their life choices. My daughter, bless her tech-savvy heart, DJ'd off her phone, her curated playlist of lo-fi beats drifting over the fence like lazy, contented balloons, a gentle invitation to relax. Neighbors strolled by, their smiles wide, waving a friendly hello. The intoxicating aroma alone was invitation enough to stop and chat. Even Mr. Patel from 2 doors down, a man of few words but impeccable taste, gave me the universal 2 thumbs up, a silent plea for, "Please, save me one." Life, in that moment, smelled like pure victory and rich, smoky hickory. It was the kind of perfect summer day you bottled up and saved for colder times. A memory in the making. Section 2. Entered the self-appointed sheriff. Then, of course, entered Karen. Yes, that Karen. The very same one who once meticulously taped a 3-page, single-spaced memo to my mailbox because, according to her precise measurements, my lawn blades had dared to reach 2.2 inches instead of the mandated 2. She marched through my open gate, an act of brazen territorial invasion, if you ask me. Her HOA badge swinging from her lanyard like a self-appointed sheriff star, glinting menacingly in the afternoon sun. Her phone was already up, filming vertically, because of course it was. Some people just live for the drama, don't they? A plume of fragrant barbecue smoke curled lazily between us, a delicious barrier. She swatted at it with an indignant hand, as if the smoke owed her overdue rent. "Excuse me," she began, her voice a tight, nasal whine. "This is an unauthorized gathering producing excessive odor and noise, and—" She paused, sniffing dramatically, her nose wrinkling in theatrical disgust. Probably unlawful spice levels. I kept my tongs steady, flipping a rack of ribs with practiced ease. "Karen," I said, try and keep my tone even. "It's a weekend barbecue, not a chili cook-off in a library." She squared her shoulders, puffing herself up like a ruffled pigeon. Section 4B clearly states no outdoor cooking that creates visible smoke beyond property line. Her eyes darted around, searching for an imaginary smoke cloud. I glanced at the perfectly clear blue sky, then at the other neighbors, who were now openly staring, some literally cheering each time I flipped a rack. "Pretty sure the only thing visible is your frown, Karen," I quipped, a little too quickly. Wrong comeback. Her eyes, already narrow, tightened to paper-cut slits. "Keep testing me. I have the city on speed dial." Her voice was dangerously low, a promise of impending doom. Challenge accepted, apparently. I just smiled, returning my attention to the perfectly sizzling ribs. Little did she know, I had a secret weapon, one that was about to arrive with flashing lights. Section 3, the escalation. She stomped off, a whirlwind of self-righteous fury, but peace lasted about as long as a snowflake on hot grates. 10 minutes later, she was back, a woman on a mission. This time, she was armed with a decibel measuring app. Seriously, who carries that? And a little yellow flag she dramatically planted in my grass, right next to my prize-winning petunias, as if she were claiming newfound land for the HOA empire. The music wasn't even that loud. My daughter, sensing the shift in atmosphere, had already switched to acoustic coffee shop levels, the gentle strumming barely audible beyond my fence line. Still, Karen recorded everything, narrating like a budget nature documentary host with a vendetta. Observe the delinquent homeowner in his natural habitat, flagrantly seasoning meat with what appears to be blatant disregard for community harmony. Every time I mopped the ribs with my secret sauce, she'd fake gag, clutching her throat as if I were unleashing chemical warfare. I couldn't resist. "Careful, Karen," I joked, flashing her a grin. "That's brown sugar and paprika, not mustard gas." She fired back, her eyes flashing. "I'm allergic to noise and nonsense." And allergic to fun, too, I thought, but kept my internal monologue to myself, focusing on basting the ribs to perfection. The neighbors, drawn by the escalating theatrics, started circling, not hostile, not judgmental, just utterly curious, like spectators at a particularly bizarre tennis match. Kids, who had been dribbling basketballs nearby, paused their game, sensing the inevitable fireworks. Karen, ever the performer, fed off the audience. She straightened her posture, took a deep, fortifying breath, and dramatically dialed her phone, announcing loud enough for the entire cul-de-sac to hear, "I'm calling the police. Enjoy your last minutes of freedom." I just shrugged, casual, almost dismissive gesture. "Tell them to bring an appetite," I called out, genuinely meaning it. She misheard me, of course, her face contorted in a screeching fury. Attitude. "Oh, that'll look great on the body cam." Spoiler alert, she had absolutely no idea how right she was. Section 4, the phone call heard round the block. Karen paced the sidewalk, phone welded to her ear as if it were a life raft, reciting a script worthy of daytime TV's most outlandish melodrama. I could hear snippets of her exaggerated claims. Dangerous gathering, black smoke billowing, possible weaponized barbecue fork, inciting a neighborhood riot with excessive spice fumes. Honestly, at one point, I half expected her to claim I was harboring a secret spice lab and manufacturing illegal flavor bombs. Meanwhile, my focus was squarely on the real mission at hand, the ribs. They were reaching that magic 3-2-1 juncture. 3 hours of smoke, 2 hours wrapped in foil, 1 hour of glorious glaze, a sacred timeline no Karen could disrupt. So, I was in no mood to abandon ship, especially not for a theatrical performance. The neighbors, now a casual semicircle of hushed anticipation, started trading bets and low whispers on how long until cop car karaoke started. My daughter, bless her heart, killed the music entirely. The sudden silence felt heavier than the oppressive humidity that had settled over the street. You could practically hear the sauce caramelizing on the ribs, a sweet, sticky symphony. Karen finally hung up, a victorious grin smeared across her face like cheap, melted frosting. She strode back, chest puffed out. "They're on their way," she announced, her voice a triumphant sneer. "Hope you like handcuffs with those ribs." I exhaled, slow and steady, the way you do when you know the punchline before the joke even fully lands. A small, knowing smile played on my lips. "Oh, Karen, you have no idea. The cavalry arrives." Then it pierced the quiet evening, the distinct, rising wail of a siren, winding its way up the street. Blue-red strobe lights splashed across trimmed hedges and perfectly watered lawns, painting the familiar landscape in neon streaks, like a scene from a low-budget action movie. The cruiser eased to the curb, its tires crunching softly on the gravel. 2 doors opened in tandem, a synchronized ballet of law enforcement. First out was Officer Ramirez, or Ramey, as I knew him, my freshman roommate from college who once, in a moment of sleep-deprived genius, mistook laundry bleach for pancake syrup. Behind him emerged Officer Davies, better known back in our college days as T-Bone, a nickname earned after he devoured an entire T-bone steak in under 3 minutes during a particularly memorable tailgate bet. Both wore identical, wide, what-are-the-odds grins that immediately put me at ease. Karen, however, was practically tap-dancing with glee. She rushed forward, clipboard waving wildly. "Officers, thank goodness you're here. Arrest him. He's running an illegal smokehouse and harassing me with spices, and the fumes are offensive." Ramey adjusted his belt, his gaze sliding past Karen's flailing arm, directly to my grill, where a fresh rack of ribs glistened. A slow smile spread across his face. "Man, that smells exactly like your dorm room ramen hack, doesn't it?" he said to me, ignoring Karen completely. "Remember that soy sauce rib thing you used to make with the hot plate?" T-Bone nodded, his eyes momentarily glazing over with a nostalgic hunger. "Still dream about it, honestly." I tonged a glistening rib high, letting the savory juices drip back onto the coals with a satisfying sizzle. "Plates are on the picnic table, boys," I offered, a genuine invitation. Karen's expressions cycled through confusion, then outrage, then a full-blown existential crisis, all in about 4 seconds flat. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "Officers, he can't, this is obstruction. You're supposed to be arresting him." Ramey, bless his patient soul, finally turned his polite professional attention to her. "Ma'am, dispatch said nuisance complaint. Mind showing us the nuisance?" She pointed a trembling, accusatory finger at the gentle wisps of hickory smoke rising innocently from my kettle grill. "That smoke. It's everywhere." T-Bone chuckled, a deep rumbling sound. He consulted invisible notes in his hand, a mock-serious expression on his face. "That's not smoke, ma'am," he declared. "That's heaven's cologne." I nearly dropped my tongs laughing. The neighbors, who had been silently observing the entire ridiculous exchange, burst into spontaneous applause. Someone, a small child with sauce smeared across his face, started chanting, "Taste test, taste test." Karen's face, at that moment, matched the cherry red glaze on my ribs. It was priceless. Instant karma, medium rare. Ramey keyed his shoulder mic, a subtle smirk playing on his lips. "Dispatch will be code 6 for dinner. I mean for follow-up." He corrected himself, winking at me. The host, meanwhile, could barely contain his glee. This was already better than he'd imagined. He then turned his full, polite but firm attention to Karen. "Ma'am, did you enter this yard uninvited?" She hugged her clipboard to her chest like a shield. "I'm HOA compliance. I have authority," she insisted, her voice wavering slightly. Ramey shook his head slowly. "Actually, you're trespassing after being asked to leave. Homeowner." He looked at me, his eyes twinkling. "Do you want her here?" I smiled, sweet and innocent, savoring the moment. "You know what, officer? I want her nowhere near my meat." The double entendre was entirely intentional. Ramey gave the polite but final nod, a clear signal. "Ma'am, please exit the property." She sputtered, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. But the smoke ordinance." T-Bone, still playing along, consulted his invisible notes again, peering intently at his palm. "Ordinance applies if smoke is dense and offensive to reasonable persons," he stated, emphasizing the last 2 words. He then gestured broadly at the half-dozen neighbors who were now openly sampling ribs, nodding in approval and licking their fingers. "These folks," he continued, "seemed decidedly unoffended." Just then, a kid with a mouthful of rib meat declared, his voice muffled but enthusiastic, "Best food ever." Karen's shoulders slumped, deflating like a pair of forgotten pool toys. The fight had drained right out of her. She turned to leave, a picture of utter defeat, but Ramey had one last parting shot. "Also, ma'am, false 911 calls can incur fines," he said, his tone still professional, but with an underlying warning. Let's keep it friendly from here on, okay? She scurried out, faster than a squirrel on espresso, her retreat a comical blur. The gate latched behind her with a satisfying, echoing clang that sounded like the final word in a very public argument. The entire block erupted in cheers, sauce-drenched high-fives were exchanged, and someone even started spontaneous line dancing in the street. The music, previously silenced, was cranked back up, now justified loud, a celebratory anthem for community triumph. Community plate sale. Just kidding, all free. Ramey and T-Bone, with their official duties concluded, officially clocked out for a community outreach meal, which was really just a baby-back appreciation session. We set up fold-out chairs, hastily borrowed from various garages, and paper plates piled high like edible Jenga towers. Sauce bottles, sticky and delicious, passed hand-to-hand like relay batons in a friendly race. Kids, their bellies full of corn on the cob and laughter, dribbled basketballs again, their earlier anticipation replaced with joyful abandon. My daughter, ever the documentarian, snapped a selfie, capturing Ramey and T-Bone giving bunny ears over my shoulders, their badges glinting in the setting sun. Even Mr. Patel, who had initially only given 2 thumbs up, returned, declaring the ribs better than cricket and curry combined, which, coming from him, was basically knighthood. We laughed about dorm days, recalling Ramey's failed attempt to cook ramen in a coffee pot, an incident that still made him blush, and T-Bone's legendary, though ultimately losing, record-setting wing-eating contest. Between bites, the officers, in a genuinely helpful gesture, reminded neighbors about securing catalytic converters and the importance of never hesitating to call for real emergencies. All the while, Karen watched from her window, her blinds twitching like restless fingers, a silent, seething observer to the festivities she couldn't ruin. Every so often, a new neighbor, drawn by the irresistible aroma and the sounds of merriment, peeked over their fence. "Any ribs left?" The answer was always a resounding yes. Community magic, it seemed, multiplied portions. Karen's quiet comeback attempt. Just when the peace felt permanent, a tangible, delicious blanket settling over the neighborhood, Karen reappeared. This time, she stuck to the sidewalk, a safe, neutral zone, and there was no HOA badge proudly brandished. She held a single sheet of paper, a formal complaint form, stark white and conspicuously blank except for my address, underlined 3 times in angry red ink. She cleared her throat, a small, uncertain sound. "I'm still reporting this to the board," she announced, her voice lacking its usual bite, more a plea than a threat. Ramey, mid-bite, wiped a streak of barbecue sauce off his chin with the back of his hand. "Mind if I address the board too, ma'am?" he asked, his tone surprisingly earnest. "I can explain how lawful barbecue works and perhaps offer some insights into neighborly conduct." T-Bone, always ready to back up his partner, added, "And I'll throw in a slideshow about neighborly goodwill, complete with visual aids of delicious, perfectly legal smoke." Karen opened her mouth, then closed it, her resolve visibly deflating. She pivoted abruptly and retreated, her shoulders slumped in defeat. The clipboard, once her mighty weapon, stayed conspicuously absent, probably feeling heavier than shame itself. The gate, once breached, remained blessedly shut. Sunset and sauce-stained victory. Hours later, the party slowly wound down. The coals in the grill glowed ember-soft, a comforting, dying warmth, as the sun melted into brilliant sherbet stripes across the vast evening sky. We devoured 3 racks of ribs, 2 slabs of grilled pineapple so sweet it practically sang, and enough laughter to fill a year's worth of Karens. Ramey and T-Bone wiped their sauce-stained mouths, thanked the crowd with genuine smiles, and promised dessert on their next visit. Apparently, I now owed them peach cobbler. They drove off, their cruiser siren silent, with foil bundles of leftover ribs riding shotgun like VIP passengers. Neighbors drifted home, their bellies swaying happily, the lingering scent of hickory and good times clinging to their clothes. Even the ancient oak seemed to exhale, its leaves rustling a soft, contented applause. I hosed down the patio, watching the sauce splatters thin into harmless, glistening rivers, carrying away the last vestiges of the day's drama. The air, finally, smelled of hickory, victory, and yes, a perfectly reasonable quiet. I sat on the porch, feet propped up, a glass of sweet tea in hand, replaying Karen's face the moment she realized her desperate 911 call had delivered exactly what I wanted: friends, fantastic food, and front row seats to instant karma. Sweet justice never tasted so smoky. If you're enjoying this neighborhood tasting menu of petty revenge, smash that like button till it squeals hotter than fresh charcoal. Share this story with anyone who's ever survived clipboard crusaders or overly enthusiastic HOA officers. HOA Karens, you know, they pop up everywhere: suburbs, condos, even RV parks. It's because some folks, bless their hearts, confuse rules with purpose. They believe order comes from rigid enforcement, not from genuine connection. But the truth is, community isn't maintained by measuring grass with a ruler or policing smoke beyond a property line. It's built one shared plate, one shared laugh, one shared moment of understanding at a time. So, let them call the cops, wave their clipboards, tattle on the smoke. At the end of the day, laughter, friendship, and really good ribs will always win out. And if the officers who respond happen to be old friends who owe you for 20-year-old ramen rescues, well, that, my friends, is just universe-level seasoning. It's a reminder that sometimes the best defense against pettiness is a good offense of kindness, community, and an unforgettable barbecue. We're sprinting toward 1,000 subscribers, faster than Karen retreated from my yard. Hit subscribe, ring that bell, and drop your best HOA run-in stories below. Who knows, maybe your tale of neighborly nonsense will star in the next video. Let's keep serving justice hot, fresh, and saucy.